Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, looking in the mirror and realizing you're not facing another 20, 40, or even 80 years. You are looking at 450 years. The 5-century horizon, rethinking the human lifespan. In this scenario, old age doesn't hit at 80 anymore. It comes at 500. The human story completely shifts from quick, fleeting decades to sprawling centuries. And this one massive shift, it would absolutely rewrite the meaning of childhood, success, love, power, and honestly, even hope itself.
So, what if the life you think is long today was suddenly just the beginning? I want you to really think about that for a second. What if the person staring back at you in the mirror isn't just a brief visitor in time, but someone who is going to be here centuries from now? You'd watch entire cities rise and fall. You'd watch oceans warm, technology evolve beyond our wildest sci-fi dreams, and whole generations just become history right before your eyes. Today in this explainer, we're unpacking exactly what a 500-year lifespan would actually do to human civilization.
Section 1. The End of Rushing. Okay, let's dive into this. The very first overwhelming shock of a 500-year lifespan wouldn't even be biological. It would be entirely psychological. We'd see a total collapse of that frantic urgency that pretty much dictates our entire existence right now. Right now, we're essentially a world of short-lived dreamers. Time is incredibly scarce. We rush to get married young because life feels so limited. We absolutely scramble to lock down a career by the time we're 22 because that clock is always ticking. But in this new reality, a world of postponement, would you still rush? Or would you delay literally everything because there's always more time? It introduces a huge hidden danger, which is a world of endless procrastination. And this quote hits the nail on the head. Immortality of time can also become immortality of procrastination. Just because you suddenly have 500 years doesn't actually guarantee you're going to accomplish more. The ultimate trap here is that humanity might just endlessly say, I'll do it later, because later stretches out basically forever. But let's say we avoid that procrastination trap. The human timeline becomes staggering. Life is no longer this one-shot race to adulthood and then a slow decline. It transforms into a series of incredibly fluid reinventions. Think about it. You could learn the piano at 12, spend 40 years mastering architecture, pivot entirely to start a new business at 90, and then decide, you know what, I'm going to write novels at 160. And you'd still have hundreds of years left to watch those ideas outgrow you. Human identity would become beautifully, radically fluid.
Section 2, Love and Family Transformed. Now, let's shift focus from our individual timelines to our inner circles. The dynamics of love and family would transform beyond anything we can comprehend today. A 70-year marriage, which is a massive, celebrated milestone for us right now, suddenly becomes just a tiny fraction of your life.
And this brilliantly illustrates the brutal, romantic dilemma we'd face. Until death do us part is a civilization-level question. That vow carries a crushing emotional weight when death is half a millennium away. Couples wouldn't just be asking if they can stay together. They'd have to figure out if they possess the patience to grow together through changing personalities, shifting ambitions, and multiple reinventions over centuries. Some bonds would become unbreakable, sure, but others, they'd become unbearable. Love shifts from a phase of life to a long-term architecture. Now, imagine the sheer scale of family life. We are talking about living family trees stretching across 8, maybe even 10 generations at once. You could be sitting at a holiday dinner passing the salt to a great-great-great-grandkid who is 200 years younger than you, while directly across the table sits an ancestor who's 250 years older. Family gatherings would literally turn into living, breathing museums of history. And honestly, just imagine having to put up with your in-laws for 3 straight centuries. But that wild family scale brings a very dark shadow. The accumulation of dynastic power. These massive, multi-century family trees would harden inequality like never before in human history. Wealth wouldn't just be passed down, it would fiercely accumulate and compound inside groups of people who have hundreds of years to strategically organize it. Families with education and influence would become dynastic in the deepest, most permanent sense of the word. Section 3. The New Rules of Power. Let's zoom out to the societal level now, because this extended horizon completely upends the very institutions that run our world. We'd be looking at a terrifying paradox here. A politician elected at 40 could easily be shaping policy for another 120 years. A CEO taking over at 30, they could dominate an entire global industry for 200 years. We'd have to constantly weigh the brilliance of long-term, highly experienced governance against the absolute danger of historical stagnation, where leaders just refuse to let go. Power wouldn't be held for a lifetime. It would be held for an entire historical age. And everyday systems, literally everything collapses and needs a complete rewrite. Pensions, salaries, housing, insurance, education, they all operate on our current ticking clock. Pensions become totally meaningless if you work for 80 years, take 20 off, and then go back to work. The whole idea of starting late would vanish overnight, because being 150 years old would suddenly be considered middle age. But here is where society would face its absolute harshest test: strict control over reproduction. If nobody's dying for 5 centuries, the planet overloads incredibly fast. Freedom and sustainability would be locked in this very tense embrace. Governments would likely have to step in and strictly control how many children you can have and exactly when you can have them, just to prevent total environmental collapse. Section 4. The burden of memory. I want to slow down for a second and just let this next reality settle in, because the human mind wouldn't automatically become stronger just because the body lasts longer. Imagine carrying 10 lifetimes of memory inside a single human brain. It's not just about remembering 5 centuries of birthdays. It's 5 centuries of heartbreaks, mistakes, deepest fears, and profound losses. Without a massive evolution of the human brain itself, or some kind of advanced technological intervention to help us sort out our past, the sheer weight of memory could easily crush us. So, the crucial point is how we handle this balance. On one side, you have these treasured treasures, accumulated wisdom, ancient friendships that have weathered centuries. But on the other side, unbearable scars. Surviving forever doesn't mean you magically stop being haunted by things that happened 300 years ago. People might forget the small details, but they are not going to forget pain or guilt. In a 500-year life, deep emotional healing wouldn't just be an option, it would be absolutely essential for basic survival. And that trauma extends right on to the global stage. Wars could become far more traumatic because people would carry the consequences for centuries. We'd have wars with century-long grudges. Veterans and long-lived rulers would harbor the scars and animosities of old conflicts for actual generations. Imagine trying to conduct modern diplomacy when the leaders sitting across the table have a 300-year-old personal grudge. Peace treaties wouldn't just need to end a war, they'd have to survive the living memory of the exact people who fought it. Section 5. Why do we live? This brings us to the final, most profound philosophical core of this explainer, the spiritual debate of endless time. Religions and philosophies would absolutely explode over this. Is an extended life proof that humanity has been elevated, or is it a deep violation of the natural order? The concept of mortality is literally what gives our current life its shape. Without the fear of dying young, a massive debate would rage. Does endless delay completely dull the urgency of the human soul? Or does it finally give us the time we need to become truly wise, kind, and humble? It all boils down to meaningful time, actually using those centuries to learn, build, create, and grow, rather than just delaying, hoarding, and fearing change. We also have to keep in mind that this extended lifespan doesn't mean true invincibility. Disease, violence, natural disasters, accidents, they would all still exist. You would gain centuries, yes, but one storm, one car crash, or one random failure could still end it all in an instant. That lingering truth would make life feel unimaginably larger, but at the exact same time, infinitely more fragile.
So, I have to ask you directly, would 500 years actually make people happier? Well, for some, yes. For others, absolutely not. Because immortality by age does not guarantee fulfillment. It doesn't automatically grant you any purpose. All it really does is provide you with more chances to find it.
And that leaves us with the ultimate question of this entire explainer. A 500-year life would practically force us to become a different species in spirit. We would have to forgive deeper, plan better, and value time far more carefully. So the real question you should take away from all of this is, if we finally stop feeling like we were constantly racing toward the grave, would humanity finally begin to build a world like we actually intend to stay?